Hello, everyone, and this is part two of speaking on some physiology on how the body works. And today we will be discussing breathing and basically, essentially, what is kind of one of the main driving forces in keeping us alive. Um, so, as you know, the main focus of breathing is the inhalation of oxygen and the expulsion of carbon dioxide. And with that being said, we have our pulmonary system to thank for that. So we are talking about the lungs, capillaries, alveoli, bronchi, and basically exchanges of gas between our red blood cells and other organelles and things of that nature in the body. So, to start off, what first happens is that there is a negative pressure built up when we inhale. So, essentially, what happens is our diaphragm, which is about here, mid center of our trunk, it basically contracts, so it gets pushed down, and because of that, the intercostal muscles inside of our chest cavity kind of squeezes up and makes our chest expand, and this causes a negative air pressure, which basically rushes air into our system through our nostrils and also through our mouth. This part is very underrated because when we breathe in air, air is not air is polluted. There are things within the air, tiny particles, just other things in the air. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So we inhale, and when it goes through our mouth and our nose, we have nasal hairs and mucus and other things of that nature that kind of help filter out the air, so that way nothing gets into our lungs, because our lungs should be sterile. If anything gets into our lungs, that's going to be pretty bad and can be potentially catastrophic to our body. Not only this, but by going through the nose and the mouth, it also helps humidify, the air. I don't know if you've ever been into a colder climate, but being from down here in South Florida, just moving up north to Pittsburgh just for a couple of years, just breathing in the air, you can really feel like I tell my coaches, it feels like my chest is stinging just because the air itself was so cold and my body was not used to it. But yeah, that's a very important, vital step for us. So once it goes through our nasal and oral cavity, it'll go down our pharynx and larynx. The air will travel through our trachea into the into our lungs, which you will see the bronchioles, and then the alveoli, which is they're like very small air sacs that sit on the very end. And this is where gas exchanges happen through the capillaries within our pulmonary system. And that's where you would see oxygen and CO2 diffuse and exchange between the two. Now, usually at this point, this is where another substance that a lot of us hear and tend to know about, which is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a carrier of oxygen. It binds to oxygen and takes that throughout the body. As we know, that's where our blood cells kind of get that reddish hues from hemoglobin, the iron, things of that nature and stuff like that. So as gas is exchanged through there, then the oxygenated blood goes throughout the arterial systems, passing on oxygen to where it needs to go, also picking up carbon dioxide as well. So then once it goes through the whole cycle through the body, it comes back from being pumped from the heart all the way through, comes back to the lungs, and then at the same site at the capillaries where the alveoli are, excuse me, where alveoli are, the CO2 diffuses through the alveoli, and basically the process ends up going into reverse. So rather than us having a negative partial pressure here, now it's going to go back to the opposite. So through the alveoli, through the bronchioles, through the bronchi, back up the trachea, through the pharynx and larynx, and then back out through the nose or mouth. And this opposite process, instead of it being a negative pressure, is going to be positive. So, and then on top of that, instead of the diaphragm being contracted and going down, it's going to relax. So it's going to come back up, and that's where that's why when you kind of exhale, your body kind of relaxes, thus causing a positive pressure to let the air rush out. So in a sense, this is a very simple breakdown of how the body takes in oxygen, breaks it down, sends it throughout the body, circulates through the body as the gases exchange. Then once they exchange, they come back up, come back through the lungs, and we expel. This is a very important process for us because our bodies will adjust to what is going on. So for example, if you are exercising, as you are exercising, your body's going to build up more CO2. So building up more CO2, your body is going to start you're going to start breathing more, and your pulmonary is going to start processing more. So that way you can intake more oxygen and release more CO2 to keep up with that rate. And it's the same thing with the, if you've ever hyperventilated before, excuse me, if you've ever hyperventilated before, essentially the process is the same. This process is also important because it also helps with homeostasis. The body can either be in an alkaline state or an acidic state. The more CO2 there is, the more acidic our body is, which can lead to acidosis, and then vice versa with the more oxygen, it would be alkalosis. So it also plays a huge part in balancing our pH in our blood. So breathing isn't just a form of just getting it into the body and getting CO2 out. It's a very important, very important process that we need to just keep our body functioning the correct way.